Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 7:13 in the morning, Tuesday, June 18th, East Coast time. Just shot the WNBA Showdown video. Was not expecting to do that ever in my life, but it was actually pretty fun. There's a lot of interesting things. Candace Parker is back for the WNBA. Nobody watching this probably cares about that, although you should. This is the most profitable cash sport out there. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out the video. A lot to say today about that, especially because it is a showdown slate, which I usually don't advocate. But for the WNBA, there's a lot of upside, a lot of potential. Only have lost two times in 5 days of cash games, and that's over 200 contests. So that's one, probably a little bit of a hot streak, but two, because nobody knows who the hell to play in the WNBA. I have a projection system that actually helps me know who to play compared to people who are just picking randomly with their eyes closed. So anyways, this is the MLB. Welcome to the channel. I cover daily fantasy sports. And like I said, the MLB, WNBA, NFL, NBA, golf, first look golf videos out. Honestly, I never did a first look golf video before. It just looked, I looked and the salaries were out and I was like, oh, I might as well just get a first hip fire reaction at this. Thought it went pretty decently. We'll see. I'll break down that today or tomorrow a little bit more. But MLB 15 full game slate or full slate today, all the teams. I hate these slates. There's so much to cover, one, but there's also just so much to break down into. But at least there's a lot of avenues in terms of stacking, in terms of pitching. So let's just start it right up. One thing that I will ask is a lot more people are watching my MLB videos because NBA is over. More people are filing into MLB. I'm producing more MLB content, so just more people are seeing me in general. So if you can hit the like button, it costs you literally nothing, $0 except 1 second of your time. That helps me a little bit. It lets more people see the video. YouTube pushes it up just barely, nothing crazy. But if you hit the subscribe button, that helps me out a ton. So if you could hit that button, it's totally free once again for you. You hitting the subscribe button allows advertisers to say, oh, this guy has a big audience, a couple of thousand subscribers. Let's tell him to say this about our product, if of course they're ethical and actually offer something valuable to you guys and girls. And then we'll pay him that. Costs you nothing. I get to keep putting this content out for free because I'm getting paid from a third party. Everybody wins, right? So if you could hit that subscribe button, that's what helps fuel that, right? When people say it helps the channel because I don't have to try and be a salesman on here all the time when I'm spending, 4 or 5 hours of my day doing this stuff. I can actually get paid from somebody else, not everybody here. So that's a little spiel. Hit subscribe, notification bell as well. Let's get into it. With the pitchers, 30 of them, right? Crazy. I always say I'm not going to go down through each of them, so I'm going to try and give abbreviated notes. Another thing I will say is that you can get this sheet over my shoulder on Patreon. And now another thing that I added is any slates that I play, which is most of them, or that I have time to analyze and break down, which is like 95% of them, I will be putting my rankings. I did it yesterday. For my top stacks, like a 1 through 6, 1 through 7, depending on the day, rankings for them that I'm using in that order. And then my top pitchers, 1 through 5, 1 through 6, depending on the slate, maybe 1 through 3, 1 through 4. My top pitchers in ranking order, 1 through whatever. I'll add a little note if I have to, but for the most part, it's just going to be a ranking system with a very brief description as to why. So that'll be in where you download the Patreon, the MLB sheet. There's a little description about what is in the sheet. I'll be adding it there for now on. I did it yesterday in the Excel sheet, but it's just easier to write about it. So that's what you'll also get. So people asking me about my hitters sheets and things like that. Look, I don't do any of that till 5 p.m. I don't do anything about hitters until 5, literally when all the lineups are out. I understand, and I do try and touch on it in here. There's no way I can get on a camera at 5 and realistically reach as many people. So if you do want to know where I'm at in terms of stacks, ranking them overall, that's a way to get it through Patreon. If you're already a patron, there you go. So we have a Justin Verlander slate. And he's got a decent matchup, right? The ballpark's not great in Cincinnati in terms of just pitcher upside, but this is a guy who's striking out everybody. 40% of lefties, 25.8% of righties. But, I mean, if you look at just the last month of the season, this guy's striking out over a third of overall batters. He is giving up pop still to righties, and this is a ballpark and a team that has a lot of righties. Although Dietrich, a guy who hit 3 home runs and he had like 7 home runs or 6 home runs in 6 straight at-bats, this guy's been struggling now. He's batting like 150 since then in like 50 plate appearances. He's looked terrible. But yeah, Verlander will give up damage. He won't walk guys. Damage in the form of home runs, 1.52 per 9, but really he's been limiting that as of late. He's going to be going deep into the games at 6 2/3 innings. He's for Justin Verlander. There's not much I have to tell you about him. I'm going to give you 5 or 6 pitchers early on that I have interest in, and then obviously later in the day, you can check Patreon where I'll have the stacks for them. There's a link down below for that, or the rankings for them. Justin Verlander is, of course, very, very interesting to me. Clayton Kershaw's 11-2, a huge price point for Kershaw, a huge favorite today, minus 280 according to Vegas. He gets the Giants, and this is why. This Giants team has no power. This Giants team strikes out around average. I don't want to pay 11-2 for Clayton Kershaw. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of pitchers on this slate, a lot of guys in the mid-range who I think are viable, potentially some punt options. And if I'm going to pay all the way up, I'll go all the way up to Justin Verlander. I don't even care what the ownership is on him on a 15-game slate. They'll naturally be spread out. Sure, Kershaw's Sierra has come down. He's pitching better, not walking guys. a lot of things to like. He's striking out more righties. But the fact of the matter is he's 11-2. The matchup is better than Verlander's, but the stuff that Verlander has compared to his matchup, I think makes him overall grade out more, if that makes sense. So Kershaw's too expensive for my liking. Cole Hamels, similar spot in terms of he has a better matchup even than Kershaw because the White Sox strike out even more. This is a very, very friendly pitcher's ballpark as long as the wind is not blowing out in Chicago has played so far this year. So Cole Hamels at 10-5, another guy who has strikes out a lot of righties, but no lefties at all, puts his strikeout rate at only 21.6%. But when you break down into it, it's 25%. So he's striking out a quarter of righties. That's pretty good. You're going to have some powerful lefties at the top of the lineup, but the good thing is Cole Hamels has limited the damage overall, only 0.74 home runs per nine. That's pretty good. That means that, through 4 starts, he's only giving up like 2 home runs or so. So that's pretty good. So Cole Hamels, though, 10-5, I'm probably not going to pay that either. I don't want to go up to guys in this range, even if it is a good matchup. And the matchup is so good that it makes me want to a little bit. But you're paying 10-5 for Cole Hamels, whose realistic upside here, if he gets to win, which he's a huge favorite at 240, is not in the 30s. Like, I don't think Cole Hamels, with his strikeout stuff, the way that he's been pitching this year, he is limiting power, sure, but his realistic upside, it's not in the 30s. And if I'm paying $10,500, I want upside in the 30s. Now, you may say, Sal, it is in the 30s. He can get me 7 Ks and go 7 innings and get the win today and not give up any runs. Sure, okay, that's the ceiling. 28 points, though. Realistically, if Cole Hamels gets into any trouble against this White Sox team, who has been showing flashes of power in that lineup since Jimenez has been there knocking home runs out, seems like twice a week at this point. But Cole Hamels at 10-5, realistically, if he gives up like 2 runs today or just gives up like a walk and 3 or 4 hits, right, and he does have an 8.5 walk percentage, which is concerning, it's so hard for him to make that up with strikeouts in terms of fantasy points that I don't want to pay 10-5 for it. Jacob deGrom at 10-3. Matchup's brutal today in Atlanta. Atlanta bats are going to be suppressed by Jacob deGrom, who has a 33.7% strikeout rate against righties, the highest on the slate, 29% strikeout rate overall. The second highest on the slate, only behind Justin Verlander and a guy in Patrick Corbin, who, speaking of Patrick Corbin, game gets rained out yesterday in Washington. I know a lot of people were affected by this. I was. Flush your $150 in play last night right down the toilet, right? Because the Nationals have an 8-hour-and-a-half rain delay before it even rains. Preventative rain delay and then delay to cancel the game. So yeah, that stunk having Patrick Corbin yesterday. He's the same price point today. So I see that and I'm like, oh, PTSD. Oh my God, I'm about to just freak out. But Jacob deGrom, yeah, the matchup against Atlanta 10-3, it's going to shade a lot of people off. And it should. They don't strike out. They're powerful from literally if Albies, whatever his name is going to continue to bat 8th in this lineup. Yeah, then 1 through 8, they have absolute power, and it's very scary. So yeah, Jacob deGrom, I love the guy, but I'm probably going to lean away from him, at least in the 10-3 range. So really for me, Justin Verlander is the only guy I want to pay up for. It shouldn't be a shock to anybody. The matchups are fine for Clayton Kershaw and Cole Hamels, but their strikeout stuff and their actual upside for paying that much, I'd rather go all the way up to Verlander and just reduce my catcher to a punt catcher instead of a decent catcher, because that's really the difference between Cole Hamels and definitely Clayton Kershaw and Verlander. Julio Teheran, 9,500 against the Mets today. Look, a guy with a 5 SIERA, I don't care how much he's been striking batters out from the right-handed side of the plate as of late. I'm not paying $9,500 for a guy who is now pitching in Atlanta in a very hitter-friendly ballpark with a 5 SIERA. The 2.92 ERA is BS. Don't listen to that. His SIERA is extremely high. He's one of the luckiest, if not the luckiest pitcher on the slate. Walks 11% of batters. I don't know what DraftKings is doing here, pricing this guy at 9,500. I get it. He's pitching better, maybe. The matchup's not great. The ballpark's not great. He stinks. I'm not paying 9,500. I'd rather get Mets bats against him. I doubt he'll be owned, though, so you're not really getting any leverage there. Brandon Woodruff against the Padres today, 9,300. This is a pitcher who's pitching really well this year. 3.62 SIERA, going about 6 innings per game or just under 6 innings per start. That's pretty good. Not walking batters, not giving up home runs, striking out a ton of them. 29.3% of righties, 28.9% of batters overall. Almost a virtual tie with deGrom. That's how good he's been this year in terms of striking batters out. No power to righties given up. Machado probably not in the lineup, so, not having the best year, Machado, but he does have power. So Machado out of the lineup. You get a San Diego team that has power overall. Tatis is back. Renfroe's in there smashing home runs every single day. You obviously still have Reyes, and there's all these guys, right? They strike out, though. So Brandon Woodruff would be the second pitcher in my player pool. I've been getting him to a lot this year. Pitching in San Diego is going to be very, very, very pitcher-friendly. Pitching against a team that strikes out, and he has a virtual tie pretty much for the 3rd highest strikeout rate on the slate. Yeah, give me all the Brandon Woodruff I can get. David Price has not looked good as of late. Last time out, he absolutely got burned, 9,100. I don't even think he made it out of the second inning. He gets Minnesota today in Minnesota, which is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. But what did I say first? He gets Minnesota today. It's an automatic pass. Look, I don't want to be just ignorant and not break down deeper into David Price's numbers. But on a 15-game slate, why target a pitcher who's not one of the best? Like, this is not Justin Verlander or Chris Sale. It's David Price. Sure, he's good, but he's not this elite pitcher whose stuff is overpowering. Honestly, if today Justin Verlander was pitching against Minnesota at a price point where his is, I would still have to consider not playing him. So David Price, I'm definitely not playing against Minnesota, whose upside is just phenomenal. I don't care if he strikes out 30% of batters or 29.6% of righties. I don't care if he doesn't give up power to lefties. This Minnesota team is something else, and I just don't want to pay 9,100 for that. Give me Brandon Woodruff instead. So right now, through the 9K range, I just have really interest in Justin Verlander and Brandon Woodruff, just due to a lot of matchups or just due to pitchers being overpriced. Let's get to the 8K range where there's a decent amount of guys. Jack Flaherty today going up against Miami. He's a 215 favorite. Look, this guy has been pitching really well, striking out 32.1% of righties, 26.2% of batters overall. This is a guy that has been pitching well in terms of the strikeout stuff, right? That fantasy upside stuff. But let's look into some of his other numbers. A 4.08 SIERA, that's pretty decent, but he walks 8% of batters, gives up 1.59 home runs per 9, hard hit contact, gets no ground balls. So he's just flirting with danger pretty much anytime somebody makes contact, right? He's pitching, he's getting strikeouts, so he's not pitching completely to contact, but when he does, it's hard hit. There's a lot of fly balls in there. But now you face Miami, a team that just has no power, a team that strikes out. So Jack Flaherty at $8,700 definitely is in play for me. He's just extremely overpriced. The matchup is fantastic today, but for a guy who realistically more times than not is going to go out there and get you because he gives up so much damage, because he walks batters, he gives up home runs, even if you're facing Miami today, right? And lefties are the ones that get to him. So if you want to kind of get leverage, you can play some Miami lefties today. I think that that's actually a good play. One off or a 3-man little mini stack. There'll probably be 3 in the lineup. So Flaherty at 8,700. In my mind, that is overpriced, and I'm very curious because I want to see what his prices have been. If we can see these actually. So prices have been, 70. So this guy is getting juiced up. Dynamic pricing of DraftKings pretty much close to $1,500, which is a lot. $1,500 is a lot for a guy who realistically is averaging 13 fantasy points on the year. Sure, he doesn't get to play Miami every time, so 8,700, he's in play on a 15-game slate. He's probably that fringy type of guy who, if I had to say a top 5 early on. Tyler Skaggs against Toronto today, another guy who has a good matchup. Toronto, though, I keep saying it, they are not this slump team that we saw earlier in the year. Why? Well, you have 2 rookies up there in Biggio and Vlad who are playing great, and Biggio, again, goes double dong last night for the second time in a matter of 2 weeks. So, I think Toronto is a lot more, or a lot better than people are giving them credit for. The matchup today in Toronto is very hitter-friendly. Tyler Skaggs, nothing about him stands out too much. Look, strikes out 23% of batters. That's very average. Gives up around 150, 160 ISO to each side of the plate. That's very average. Gives up way too much hard hit contact, too many walks. I really don't want Tyler Skaggs today. I'm more and more interested in this Toronto offense as it goes deeper and deeper. Biggio leading off for batting second allows them to kind of get decent hitters now 1 through 6, whether Rowdy Tellez, Justin Smoke, Grichich, whoever's in that lineup around the Vlads, the Biggios, and Eric Sogard at the top. This is now becoming a decent lineup that has a lot of power 1 through 6, instead of before Vlad and Biggio got there and you only had 1 or 2 through 4, right? I think this offense is actually a lot better than a lot of people are giving them credit for, and Biggio and Vlad are the main reasons why. It gives them depth and power really throughout the whole top of their lineup. I really don't want any Tyler Skaggs today. Jordan Yamamoto goes up against St. Louis today, the opposite side of this matchup. Very small sample size here. I really don't want to break down into the data. I believe he pitched. Has he only pitched 1 game because he went 7 innings flat? So whenever I see an even number. 1 game, 3-hitter. He faced the St. Louis team, so what do you know? Played really well. Wow. Struck out 5 batters, limited the damage. What is the fly ball? 8 fly balls to 6 ground balls. That's not very good, but he did get 95 pitches. But do I really want to play or pay $8,300 when Patrick Corbin's sitting there at $8,200? Look, I know he faced this same team in St. Louis. I think that all the time or more times than not actually favors the team that you face because they can see you more. You're a young kid. They actually can understand your stuff. They play you once again, and it's oh, okay, we just got this guy. This is what he did. This is how he beat us. I don't want him at $8,300. If he was $6,000, and he's definitely in play. But St. Louis doesn't strike out. They only struck out 5 times. The only reason he had a good game was I believe he got the win, but he also went deep into the game, 7 innings, limited the damage. But one game sample size, he gave up more than half of the at-bats were hard hit balls. More than half of them were fly balls in terms of his outs, or right around half, 8 fly balls. That's not great. If you're giving up 8 fly balls in a game, or 9 fly balls in a game, whatever he gave up, and more than half of them are being hit hard, yeah, you're going to flirt with damage more times than not. So when you see his 0 ERA in this one game sample size, it was really a 4.83 at the end of the day. That's not very good. It's approaching 8. Yeah, I don't want that for 8,300. So Patrick Corbin, 8,200, same price as yesterday. The game got rained out. Like I said, that ruined me. Flush 150 down the toilet after, what stinks the most is when you get the Nats or the Angels. Obviously, everybody in the world was on the Angels yesterday against Edwin Jackson. How is he in the league? Gave up like 7 runs the second he came in the second and third inning for a pitcher long relief, right? Long reliever. But you get that right, like everybody else. But you get the smash home runs out of the outfield there. And then I also had yesterday, Biggio, and he hit a double dong, right? He went off. He had 30 fantasy points on DK or whatever it was. So, getting a 0 out of your pitcher spot really hurts, because it would have been an automatic cash if you play Corbin and he just gets me like 10 points. If he goes off for a 30-burger, we're really talking. So, Corbin at 8,200, yeah, I'm interested once again. He's too cheap. He ended up being my second favorite pitcher at the end of the day yesterday, as you can tell, because he got into my lineups alongside Kenta Maeda, so not the greatest there. But, Corbin would be my third pitcher in the player pool. Reminder that Jack Flaherty is sort of this on-the-edge guy just because of the matchup, but I think he's being priced up way too much for the matchup. So Corbin would be my third pitcher in against Philly. Same things I said yesterday. He's just way too cheap. I think people will overreact and try and 100% him into their lineups in a matchup that's not the greatest. Here's the thing that really made me like him yesterday. Look at the Philly lineup. There was no Real Muto. There was no Jay Bruce once again. The lineup is decimated when that happens. The 6, 7, and 8 hitters, and then obviously the 9 hitters, the pitcher, are terrible. If he can just get through your Rhys Hoskins, your Bryce Harpers, there's really nobody else left. I guess Kingergy, whatever his name is, Kingerly. Kingerly, that sounds about right. If he can get through those 3 hitters, Hoskins, Kingerly, and Harper, he's fine. There's nobody else in this lineup that's going to threaten Patrick Corbin. And for the most part, Corbin sits down lefties, so there's your Bryce Harper being sat down. But keep an eye on this. If Real Muto and Jay Bruce are back today, because Real Muto seems to be out for a little bit more. Bruce has been day-to-day. But if this extra day off gets them back into the lineups, well, then he becomes a much worse pitcher in my eyes, because now there's 5 guys who realistically can get to Corbin instead of 3. And that's a huge difference, not only because of the damage that Real Muto and Bruce can do, but also because of the upside and the other guys in that lineup have in terms of them striking out a lot more. So, Corbin's my third pitcher in my player pool. That does not mean he's my third favorite. I don't know yet. That's what the rankings will be at the end of the day. Some of these guys might leave because of things like that, batters being in the starting lineups. So that's where I'm at. Marcus Stroman, quickly glossing over him. I hope the Yankees get him. I like him a lot. The Yankees could use some pitching. He's not the greatest strikeout pitcher this year by any means. Only 20% of righties, 16.8% of lefties. Now you're facing an Angels team that just has a ton of power in a ballpark that favors the Angels in Toronto. Yeah, I don't want any Marcus Stroman, 0% today, but I would like to get more of the Angels bats once again. Not nearly as good of a matchup as the last game. Stroman does limit the damage overall, but he doesn't strike guys out. He does pitch to contact this Angels team if they are going to hit the contact, one of the highest hard hit percentages in the league from the middle of their order. So early interest in Angels bats, nothing there in terms of Marcus Stroman. Game in Arizona today between the Rockies and Diamondbacks. Merrill Kelly's on the hill. Merrill Kelly is not a good strikeout pitcher, gives up too much power to righties. I'd rather get some Coors one-offs, a 4.84 Sierra. I don't want it. Why does this keep popping up my email? That's not good. Let's finish up the 7K range, and we'll quickly go through 6. Oh my God, we have so many in the 7K actually. So let's go from the bottom up. We just finished the 8K range. Ryan Stanek, he's an opener today. Yarbaugh's coming in. Yarbaugh's actually been pitching deeper into the games, but he's too expensive going up against the Yankees. I don't want him or Stanek as the opener. Gabriel Yana at $4,500. This guy has been coming out here pitching absolutely terrible. Doesn't have strikeout stuff. Gets Oakland today. That doesn't strike out. Look, Yana might only go 3 innings today, and you don't want to be paying anything for that. So no. Antonio Senzatelli, he's bad. He's very bad. Like, we like to say Edwin Jackson is bad, and Edwin Jackson's level is bad above everybody. Like, literally, more batters that he faces. If he faces 10 batters, there's, I would bet you money that at least 2 of them hit home runs off of him. That's what's crazy. That's how bad Edwin Jackson is. But Antonio Senzatelli is flat out terrible. 5.64 Sierra. There's no way you can get me to pitch this guy against an Arizona team that doesn't strike out and that has so much power, even in a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Walks 10% of batters, power to lefties, power to righties. Yeah, Arizona today is going to be a stack that I think is very popular. I want all the lefties in the world. Look at this. This adds up perfectly. Senzatelli stinks in general, right? He pitches to contact. He gives up hard hit contact around 40%. He gives up so much power to lefties. What does Arizona have? Tons and tons of lefties at the top of their lineup. David Peralta, Marte. There's 2 other lefties at the top of their lineup, right? So they're going to be probably priced up, but Right now, Arizona's looking like one of my favorite stacks just due to the matchup and due to the left-handed power that they have. Ivan Nova against Chicago today. So Nova's the first guy who starts to become interesting. At $5,000 flat, he's very cheap. He's punt worthy because he does go on average 5 2/3. That's pretty good for a guy down in this range. Now, he has no strikeout stuff at all, but at least he limits hard hit contact. He does get a lot of ground balls. He limits the fly balls. He limits the walks. The bad things about Nova are that he does have around a 5 SIERA, which is terrible because he does give up home runs, even though he doesn't give up hard hit contact. He doesn't strike anybody out. He goes up against the Cubs today that have power. Nova is sort of this 5K punty type option that I wouldn't be totally opposed getting to. But right now it's sort of like, do I want to go all the way down there when we have another guy that we're going to get to who's in a similar range? Don't want any of this Kichui guy or whatever his name is, Pikachu, we'll call him that, against the Royals. Really just don't. He gives up power to both sides of the plate. No strikeout stuff either. Gives up too many home runs, walks. I don't want any of him. Daniel Norris at 5,700 continues to be very cheaply priced for a guy going around 5 innings per start. Doesn't have strikeout stuff, gives up too much power. He's pitching in a ballpark today that is very hitter-friendly. Pittsburgh does not have a lot of power, but they also don't strike out. So Norris in his matchup, I get it. He's cheap. If you want to get to him, that's fine. I probably will not. But if you want to go stars and scrub punt mode, fine, get to him then. Brett Anderson at 6,200 today against Baltimore. Last time out, he pitched really, really well, but he only strikes out 8% of lefties. He only strikes out 14% of righties. Where's your upside coming from a guy that will walk 8% of the batters he faces, from a guy that has a 5.32 SIERA? He's terrible. This Baltimore team, people I keep hearing say, they're so bad, the lineup's putrid. I mean, they're right around average in terms of their power on the year. They're right around average in terms of their strikeouts on the year. And you're pitching in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, which is going to help Anderson. He's a huge favorite today, but overall, I'm not going to be getting to him. $6,600 Sean Anderson today. Against the Dodgers, there's no way. He's a huge underdog. He does go 5 2/3 innings per start, which is one of the deepest that you're going to get down in this range. He doesn't strike a single batter out. He gives up power to lefties. There's a ton of lefties that have pop in this Dodgers order. There's no way. Homer Bailey, 6,700 against Seattle today. A team that does strike out a lot. A team that just lost one of their most powerful hitters in Edwin Encarnacion, right? So there's a lot of power going out of that lineup, 21 home runs or so. To my Yankees, shout out to the Yankees. They need pitching though, but I'll get 1 through 8 guys who are going to hit 20 plus home runs on the year, right? Gleyber Torres is about 8th in this lineup, which is crazy, maybe even 9th. Homer Bailey at 6,700. Yeah, he's in play. He's probably my 4th player in my pitcher pool right now. I guess depending on which way I go down. He's not anybody I love. The strikeout stuff against lefties is nice, and there's going to be a lot of lefties in the Seattle lineup, probably around 4 of them. Doesn't strike out righties. Gives up home runs, Homer Bailey. Actually, no, he limits home runs this year, but he gives up hard hit contact at 44%, only 9% walks or 10% walks. That's not great. Homer Bailey at 6,700, actually, the more I think about it, he's fringy. I don't want to just say he's in the lineup because he isn't working deep into the games, and this is a powerful team. The only thing that is nice about Seattle is that they do strike out. So Bailey along with the Jack Flaherty. Let's just chalk Jack Flaherty. He's too expensive. I don't care that he's playing Miami. He's too expensive. But Homer Bailey's sort of this fringe play for me. Mitch Keller, no interest there against Detroit. I get it. He's playing Detroit. This is a really good matchup. He has struck out a lot of lefties. 6,900 though is a decent favorite. 4.85 SIERA, not great. Walks too many bats for me. Hard hit contact. Doesn't get any ground balls. That's the big thing. I would rather target the Detroit bats today. If anybody owns Mitch Keller, I'd rather have the Detroit bats. He gives a ton of ISO to righties and even to lefties. So give me Nick Castellanos today. Give me Kristen Stewart in the middle of that lineup. Give me whoever. I would much rather have in a hitter-friendly ballpark in Pittsburgh, the Detroit bats today. 7K range, I'm just going to quickly gloss over because there's really, Logan Allen is a rookie today. He's a minor leaguer getting called up against Milwaukee. Yeah, I don't want any of that. J.A. Happ coming off a pretty good start, his best start yet. Still no strikeout stuff at all. Still going up against a Tampa team that's pretty decent after Tanaka 2 hit him yesterday in a complete game shutout. I doubt you're going to see a repeat out of J.A. Happ today, a guy who's just giving up way too many home runs, 2 home runs per 9. I like the Tampa Bay bats today. Get the righties. Obviously, Tampa Bay has a lot of power from the left side. That's fine as well. I like Tampa Bay as a full stack option as well. Jake Arrieta, I'm never pitching him. I just never get to him. Not a good matchup against Washington. Walks too many batters. Gives up too many home runs. Doesn't strike guys out. Yeah, no interest in Arrieta. Michael Pineda, give me all the Boston bats in the world. This is it. Boston's going to be overpriced. So is Minnesota. I like all the Boston bats in the world today. I like all the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't even know what the totals are yet for these teams, but Boston against Pineda, who's just giving up almost 2 home runs per 9. He doesn't walk batters, but he has a 4 or 5 SIERA. Gives up way too much hard contact. Doesn't get ground balls. Gets fly balls. Doesn't strike guys out. So what is he doing? He's pitching to contact, and he's pitching to hard contact. Now you bring in Boston, who makes contact, makes hard contact more times than pretty much anybody else in the league. And Pineda's just letting the ball fly, and you add into that, sure, it's Minnesota, a hitter-friendly ballpark, but I don't care. I want all the Boston bats today. No Michael Pineda. Anthony DeScalfani, just no strikeout stuff. It's kind of gone out the window. 25% of righties is slowly coming up. But similar to Pineda giving up 2 home runs per 9 against Houston, yeah, I'd rather have the Houston bats. No Discofani today. And then Adrian Sampson and Zach Plesac. Zach Plesac's actually interesting to me today. He is working deep into the games. He's shown to have strikeout stuff against righties, nothing really against lefties. This Texas team is absolutely terrifying in terms of the power that they have. But they do strike out, so that's why there's some interest. But 7,900 seems like a lot. Adrian Sampson, there's no way. He's terrible. I'd rather have Cleveland bats against Adrian Sampson. So, to recap, Justin Verlander's in my player pool. Brandon Woodruff's in my player pool. Patrick Corbin is the third pitcher in my player pool. That is all the 8K and above range. Honestly, the 7K range doesn't stand out to me. There's nothing that I want. I want the Boston bats against Pineda. I don't want anything. I'd rather have Tampa Bay full stacks against J.A. Happ. I don't want this rookie Sampson against Cleveland. I don't want... Or Logan Allen. I don't want Adrian Sampson against Cleveland. I don't want Logan Allen, the rookie, against, or this minor leaguer against Milwaukee. DeScalfani has been terrible, and I don't want him against Houston. The only guy in the 7K range, if you told me to pick one, is Zach Plesac. That stands out because he has been working deep into the games, but he does have a home run problem, and now he faces a team in Texas that hits a lot of home runs. I believe, though, somebody is out. Is it Hunter Pence for Texas? Somebody's out that's actually going to help that. Joey Gallo's still out. So Zach Plesac is the fourth guy in my player pool, I guess you can say, if we had to pick one from this 7K range, but really fringy. 6K range. There's just a lot of dust down here in the 6K range. Look, Mitch Keller, I don't want to play against Detroit. Give me full stacks of Detroit, or mini stacks, 3-man stacks of Detroit. Mitch Keller, if he garners ownership because of a 27% strikeout rate against lefties and only a 20% against righties, that's fine. Will likely take the leverage. Homer Bailey at 6,700. He is now priced correctly. He was in the 5K range, but now that he's priced correctly, I don't think I have interest. Now, look, there's less power in this lineup with no Edwin and Encarnacion. They do strike out a decent amount. Homer Bailey just doesn't work deep into the games, and now he's not 5,700, he's 6,700, so you're paying for a pitcher who you need 15 or so fantasy points out of to win a contest, and obviously he went out in the last game and he absolutely smashed, but this is a much different opponent. So Homer Bailey is on the fringe for me. Sean Anderson, Brett Anderson, don't really want either of them. Daniel Norris is this other type of fringy type of play. Ivan Nova would be the one punt. So here's what I'll do. Justin Verlander, Woodruff, and Corbin. I really want to get to 2 out of those 3 guys. But based on the fact that I know I like Arizona, I know I like Boston bats today, it's probably going to be hard. I think you can get cheap bat options from Cleveland and also from Detroit, if I'm saying early on, or even Miami. I do like Detroit leverage against Mitch Keller potentially today in ownership. But the 3 guys that I'm solid on are Corbin, Woodruff, and Verlander. That's probably not shocking anybody. I'll give you 3 punts that I'm not really knowing what the order is of playing them yet, but I'll just give you the punts that I'm interested in. It's Homer Bailey, it's Ivan Nova all the way down at $5,000, and then it's Daniel Norris based on matchup and just based on the depth that he can go into these games. So that's where I'm at in terms of punts. Really nothing in the 7K range stands out. Zach Plesac a little bit, but not really at all. Those are the 3 punts I'd go to. And the 8K range is for the most part just Patrick Corbin to me. Nothing else flashes. 9K range just Woodruff, and then above that is just Verlander. So that's where I'm at. My name is Sal. Hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see my ranks, or if you want to know who I'm an hour before lock is probably when I have it done. I will update Patreon. You can get that link below. You can support me there. Follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS for just updates on all of that stuff and just DFS in general. I have a podcast that's out if you're still watching. Episode 1 went up. Just type Sal Vetri into any platform, the Sal Vetri Show. Just do a little bit brief 5-minute podcast on what I'm going to be doing with that podcast. So thank you so much. My name's Sal. Like and subscribe. Please, please, please subscribe before you leave. Peace out, gang.